Welcome back, space travelers, to Element 115 here on Spaced Out Radio, where we talk about everything paranormal from Bigfoot to UFOs and everything in between. We are your hosts, Jackson Lee, your pilots on this spaceship tonight. We hope you sit back, buckle up, and enjoy the ride to all our adventures through the universe that everything has to offer. Tonight, we travel through dimensions of divine intervention. Welcome.
Well, welcome everybody. I'm glad to be here. I know Jax is wonderfully happy to be here. We're just excited. Anyway, it's been one heck of a week, working on all of this stuff and getting things ready for you guys when we go prime time next week with Dave and everybody. And it's been great. It's been fun. But I'm kind of going to be I'm going to be very happy that we're back on just, doing our normal thing day after day, week after week for a while.
Exactly.
Anyway, we're going to
doing a lot.
Yeah. So we're going to get into some divine intervention stories that Jax and I have been, have had things that have happened in our life that you can kind of consider divine intervention. And I think we're going to have Jackie start because she's got a heck of a lot more of it in her life than I have in mine.
Actually, I've actually talked a little bit about this before prior on not only this show, but other shows, but it started making me think about how divine intervention actually helps us in times of horrible accidents and things that we might go through that may not be a horrible accident, but also something that, maybe someone's trying to connect with you in a way where you might need help during that time. And it might not be like an accident or anything like severe, but something very special in that time. And that can also be divine intervention as well. I've actually told a story multiple times about how things started out for me. And I always felt like that was divine intervention of, the very first time I ever actually saw my uncle that showed up at the age of 4 for me. And the story basically wasn't like anything where I was in trouble or anything like that. But I think it was a time for him to connect with me, to let me know that there will be times later in your life where I'm going to be there, and that it's going to be divine intervention of I will be there for you. in times of like tragedy, in times of, maybe something horrible that my family's going through or I'm going through, or even at one point, I actually thought my son, I don't talk very much about my older kids. I have older children. And I want to tell a news story because this is something that I've never actually talked about before in here. When my older son was younger, he's 30 now. I think he just turned 31 actually. And when he was about 8 years old, he had something that we weren't quite sure exactly what was going on with him. We were in and out of hospitals, and basically the surgeons at that time ended up saying, "We're going to pull him out of school because his spleen is so enlarged that if he were basically to go to school and fall off a swing, he could die." And so, of course, that was a very scary time for me. And I'm a young mom. And, and here I am with this 8-year-old little boy who's very, very sick. And he had several surgeries. The doctors were trying to see what they could do to help him. They been on some medicine that had eaten his stomach lining away.
Mm,
And so the doctors thought at that point he was so ill that he had leukemia.
mm,
And so this was a very scary time for us. And they actually at one point said 6 months. He has about 6 months to live and do everything you can to just enjoy life with him. And so right after we found out about this, he had something wrong, basically with his vocal cords, where something had damaged in a surgery that had damaged his vocal cords, and he had lost his voice. And so this went on for about a year where he had no voice. Okay. And of course, I never gave up and I never stopped praying that, of course, he would be okay. Well, I kept calling out to my uncle, and, of course, um, everyone has their own beliefs and like who they believe in and who they call out to. And I always had this very like close connection with this uncle that would always show up for me. Well, what happened was my parents decided to take my son and my older daughter and my nephew on a trip to across the country in an RV to Disney World. And we knew that when he got back, like the surgeons had told us, he probably wouldn't live much longer. So, of course, as a mom, I'm very stressed out and I'm worried and thinking I'm going to end up losing my child. And I haven't heard him talk in over a year. Well, one morning, it was probably about, I say a week after they left, they were in Florida, and I pick up the phone one morning and it's my son. And as clear as I'm talking right now, he says, "Hi, mom. I just want to call and tell you I love you." And now I, of course, burst out into tears. Okay. And I'm thinking, oh my gosh, like we were told we'd never hear him talk again. And to basically just prepare his life for the end. And so I couldn't believe it. My mom gets on the phone and she's like, "We don't know what's going on." He woke up this morning and was just talking away. He literally was like, "Hey," as if nothing had ever happened to him. He literally was like, "Hey, can we go outside and roast some marshmallows?" And like, he was just talking to people like nothing. And so, of course, then I was just like, oh my gosh. So I had so much hope. So, of course, they come back from the trip and we go to the doctor. And the doctor says to us, "We don't know what happened, but we no longer think he's going to die. We no longer think he has leukemia. Like, we don't even understand what's going on here." Okay. So, as happy in that moment as I am, I'm still stressed and worried. Like, what if they're wrong? What's going on? But I'm thinking this has to be divine intervention because this is our child. Now, most people that are watching, or you know, um, if you've had kids or grandkids, whatever, how scary that can be. So for me as a mom, I was just like, oh my gosh, like miracles, miracles, right? Well, this was a child that was sick from about 5. So it had been about 3.5 years by this time. And here we are thinking we're preparing my child basically to die. And then all of a sudden, he's okay. Nothing's wrong. Like, and he is one of the healthiest people you'll ever see and meet and know, and very normal, healthy. Nothing's wrong. Like, he's kind of a pain in my butt once in a while, but yeah, he's 31 years old now, and after that point, absolutely perfectly healthy and perfectly fine. So, you just never know. You never know what can happen. And I don't know what made it go from that extreme to him being 100% healthy, talking, and now he's like nothing's wrong with him. So, he actually ended up graduating college in the top 5% of the entire United States. So he's super smart. And I'm just a very, very happy, lucky mom to still have him in my life. But I just wanted to share that tonight because it was something that I was thinking about, and I wanted to share something really new and fresh with you guys. So if anything's like going on in your life that you know, you're not quite sure, you can reach out to people on the other side, or that there are people there to help you along your path. There really are. So
Mhm.
don't give up. Don't ever give up. But anyway, I'm gonna let Lee go ahead and tell one of his stories.
Yeah, I'm, you know, since I was born, my mom always told me that I was a miracle. And I heard it over and over and over again. Well, um, my mom wanted a lot of children. She said that she would like take 10 children or more. She always wanted many as she could get, many as she could have. But my brother was born just over a year before I was. And at that time, they had to do a C-section on my mom to remove my brother. Well, he was severely deformed and didn't last
Mm,
very long at all. A couple of hours or whatever it was out of the womb. And the doctors told my mother over the next couple months that she would never get pregnant again, that it was an impossibility. There was just too much damage inside, and things weren't right. However, here I am. And
mm,
so for her, I was always a miracle. And I always felt that connection with my brother, even though he's not here. I feel a connection with him. So, um, yeah, I think that we do have people on the other side that are around us all the time, even
mhm,
though we may not hear things from them. We may not get what you would say is a normal sign that something's around your house, opening drawers or doing things, turning lights on and off. But we do have those things with us around us. And I know some people say that they see repeating numbers and that sort of thing, and people think that those are something on the other side that's guiding you in a specific direction. And I believe that. I do believe that. Um, and so, yeah, do have faith that there is those on the other side that are always watching. Um,
mhm.
definitely. And I've got something else, Jackie. If you want me to continue, I can go
Yeah,
into a
please.
longer story
Yes,
that
go ahead.
happened. Yeah. So growing up is a great thing to do, especially when you have friends like I had. Hoodlums, right? And from a young age, I always seemed to hang around with the wrong people. And it's not that I was a bad kid, but I like to hang around with kids that would do some crazy stuff. You know what I mean? Because it was fun, right?
Yeah.
So when I was about the ripe age of 12, a friend and I thought it would be a good idea to go over to this big school, high school that was nearby, and they had this huge track field. I mean, just massive track field, and they had these big mounds of dirt, all in this one area corner of the track area, and we thought, well, dang, we go over there, we would dig up these dirt clods and we throw dirt clods at each other and whatever we were doing.
Mhm.
Sometimes those pine cone fights, but this day it was dirt clods. And so what was fun or interesting is that we figured out we could dig through this sand pile pretty easily. And so we did. We started to dig. He dug on one side and I dug on the other side of the sand pile, and we were kind of going to meet in the center. Well, we did finally get through. We could crawl through the sand pile, right? In and out of it. And so then I started, oh, I'm going to dig another little branch off of the and go this other way in the sand pile. And I was in there and it collapsed on me. So I had a couple 100 pounds of sand on my body and on my face. And I wasn't
Mhm.
able to breathe. Sand was getting in my ears, it was getting in my mouth, and I couldn't move at all. I was going to suffocate and die, and I was really scared, screaming as loud as I could. Um, I actually kind of was eventually able to get my hand out, and I could feel my friend above digging, and he was digging towards where my feet were, and I was like trying to pull him back over to where my head was because I knew I needed air. But every
Mhm.
by that time things started to close in on me. So it felt like a whooshing kind of, and things started
Mhm.
going down to like a point for me as far as, just in my mind. It wasn't, I couldn't see anything. So I could just, in my mind, I could see like the focus and everything started to go in. Um, and it was like a pinpoint of light, but my friend's now digging, where my mouth is to get air to so I could breathe. And I'll tell you what, it was like all of a sudden these hands just grabbed me, and it was like, you're going to be fine, you're going to be okay, you don't need to stress or worry about it, you're going to be okay, you know and at that moment it was very comfortable feeling for me. um, and I did,
Mhm.
and I relaxed. And, about 5 seconds later, my friend broke through and, got to where I could at least breathe enough, so I could get some oxygen. But I'll tell you, that was, you know, it was scary because I felt like I almost lost my life that day. And to know that there's something on the other side in that time when
Mhm.
you're going through that, when you're about to pass, it helps me realize that I don't need to be as scared about passing away or moving on. That so many people have so much fear behind it, right? And
Mhm.
I feel very lucky to have had the experience that I did in the way that I did, so that I'm as comfortable with passing, whenever that does come. So yeah, obviously, I realize that we have a lot of work to do here while we're here, and we have a mission. That's the way I think about it: is that we all have a mission, right? And then when it is our time, it's our time. When we complete our mission, it'll be time to move on. But right now, this is where we got to be, and this is what we got to do. And yeah, that's
Yeah, exactly. It's so hard to see. It's so emotional. It's like killing me.
oh yeah, I know it's emotional for me. That's for sure, of
Uh,
course. And I'm a
yeah,
Cancer, so I am just an emotional person as it is. I don't know how she puts up with me, to tell you the truth.
me neither.
See, see,
Yeah. You're amazing. He's amazing. So, um, yeah, it's hard. I even heard it like even talking about my son, like I'm sure people can hear it in our voice talking about it because it's such a hard thing to really
Mm,
talk about. But at the same time, it's an amazing thing to talk about because we get the opportunity to share like those special moments of, it's a scary time, but something amazing happened and got you out of that.
yeah,
If it's
yeah,
divine intervention or your own strength or both, that's an amazing um thing to have to go through. Like I've been through some horrific car accidents. I've been through one, and I have talked about it I think maybe once or twice on here before, about being in a really severe river accident. And um that I 100% knew I had divine intervention.
mhm,
And um I also, and I don't know if I've ever actually talked about this or not, but I was up in Lake Tahoe where it was let's see, about early January. I can't remember what the date was, but it was about a week into January of 2005. And I actually went up with I had just actually gotten married about 2 weeks prior to going up there. And this was like back in, a long time ago. When I got married was 2004, day after Christmas 2004. And so we wanted to take my youngest daughter at the time, she was about 6, up to go snow sledding. And unfortunately, at the tail end of the day, I was going down the hill, somehow ended up hitting like some weird bump or rock. It sent me flying off this cliffside, and I fell, broke my back, and I literally laid there in the snow, like thinking that I knew immediately the second I hit that I broke my back. I could feel it. Like you could literally feel your whole spine just like compress and break. And
mm,
I just remember very carefully, I remember like laying myself back down in this like area of the snow. And it was so cold and it started snowing that I thought, okay, and I could not feel my body. So that was kind of
mm,
freaking me out. But I just do I remember feeling like, okay, I need help. No, I can't even scream out because it's so painful to like scream. I could barely even get the words out. And I just remember laying there and thinking like, "Oh God, let people know that I'm here and not okay so they can come help me." Well, when they finally figured out what had happened, I had been laying there for a little bit. And I don't know if it's from the cold or what, but my body was kind of going numb. Well, this family ended up seeing me and they ran all the way back to their van and brought me a blanket. And I remember them laying it over me. But it was so bizarre because it was this Hispanic family who could not speak English whatsoever. And I just remember when the guy took the blanket and leaned over and looked at me right in the eyes, I felt like I was looking at my uncle, that the same uncle that I had, that I've talked about, my Uncle Ben, from way back when, from when I was a little girl. But it was just something in his eyes that it was like he was there. If it was the guy or not the guy, I felt like he was just letting me know, like, I'm with you. You know what I mean? Like, I'm here and I'm with you. And it was just a really weird time because someone called 911. They were like, she's, broke her back. She's laying here in the snow. And it's just like this really weird part of the mountain. And so they tried to get a helicopter to come in and lift me out because we were in there pretty far. And they didn't think an ambulance was going to be able to come in and get me. And so they had the helicopter come in. And I remember laying there for like probably over an hour before the helicopter even showed up. And I remember them, like, trying to get down to me, but it was like all these trees were in the way where they couldn't quite, like, get the helicopter low enough to come get me. So then they have to take off, and now they got to call an ambulance in to come get. So I'm who knows how long I've been there by this time, probably a couple hours. And from laying in snow, I'm numb, I'm freezing, I'm scared, I'm crying. I'm just like, oh my gosh, I just pray to God I'm okay. And I was in a lot of pain. And I remember these guys showing up, and I remember laying there watching about, it seemed to me like about 6 men, and the snow was so deep that every step they took, they would go like left, right. You know what I mean? Like it was like that deep snow where you couldn't walk straight. And they finally got me on this, like one of those little gurney stretcher things to take me back to the ambulance. And I remember feeling like leaning, leaning every step and I just thought, "Oh my god, I'm going to die," because you're in so much pain. And, so they finally get me settled in this ambulance, and I'm just, thinking like, "Okay, I'm okay no matter what. If I'm if I have a broken back, if I'm paralyzed, whatever the situation is, I'm alive." And in that moment, it was like, I honestly didn't even care. You know what I mean? Like, I cared, but I didn't care. It was just like, I'm alive and I just know that I'm being taken care of. And I'm sure they drugged me right away. But anyway, I get to the first hospital and they realize they can't, for some reason, can't take care of me there. It's my situation's way worse than they can deal with at this hospital. So they end up having to put me in another one. And I think at that point, I think they did end up sending me by helicopter to another hospital. But yeah, anyway, I ended up going to that hospital, and I remember them walking into the room. Now, I had probably already been there maybe a few days by this point because I was so out of it. They had me kept me drugged up like crazy. And I remember them walking in and the doctor saying to me, "3 people, all 3 of you guys ended up at this hospital on the exact same night. All 3 of you broke your back, and you're the only one who isn't paralyzed." And I just remember thinking, like, I remember laying there thinking, I cannot feel my body. I was scared to death. Like, I wasn't gonna ever walk again, And, but once again, here we are. And I'm thinking, divine intervention, like something, someone, somebody is taking care of me. And they knew that, my story is not over. My whatever I have to come next in life is not over. And I'm not saying if I was paralyzed it would have been over, but I just felt that protection around me. And I knew no matter what, it was like just peace of I'm okay and I'll get through this, And so I ended up being, I had a surgery about 4 or 5 days after I got there, and I ended up with, 2 8-inch titanium rods and 6 screws in my spine. And it's funny because I meet more and more people now in life that'll say, "Oh my god, I have the same thing," and I'll think like, "Whoa, like, I know what you went through," It's a hard thing to deal with. And I just said this to Lee yesterday, like, I remember the doctor saying to me the very first time I went back, he said, "And I want you to understand something, you will be limited for the rest of your life." And I looked at him and I said, "No, no. I'm gonna tell you right now, you are wrong. I will never be limited. Never. And don't ever say those words to me." I felt like he was trying to crush my soul by telling me that. I thought, no. Now I understand I'm not gonna be jumping out of planes, but I'm fine. Go ahead.
Well, how much sass can you pack in that little body of yours? Holy cow. That's what I'm saying.
A
It's
lot.
there's a lot of sass right there, that's for sure. She she's got it in spades.
It's
And
true.
it seems like you're a cat that's got 9 lives as well.
Oh, my mom says that all the time. And for those people out there who don't know this already, I am in the very, very beginning, and I mean very beginning by I haven't started this yet. But I am actually going to be writing a book. And this is a big reason why I'm going to be writing the book because my life has been like since birth, like like down the line to all the way to now. And I have had more um, crazy, weird, horrific incidences. I mean, just insane things that are just not of the norm. I'm
Yeah.
54 years old and I've already had 33 surgeries in my life. It's not normal. But I mean, maybe for some people, but in my family, yeah, there's nothing normal about this girl.
No. Jackie, I wonder if you can talk about the river accident. The thing that really intrigues me once again is your uncle possibly showing up for that as
Yeah.
well. And
Yeah.
so, I mean, the fact that it's happened twice, at least that I know of, where somebody has driven up, and picked
Yeah.
you up in a vehicle. So
Yeah. Well, yeah. Of course, I'll share that with you guys. Okay, well, first of all, it's way more than twice, and I'll tell you guys more. And I tell you this all the time.
yes,
He only knows the tip.
three times.
What?
Yeah, I think it's three times where you had this person drive up and pick you up. Three times now, I think.
Well, I've had multiple things happen throughout my life where he'll show up, but I haven't even like I tell him all the time. I haven't even begun to tell everything. Like if I sat here and told you guys everything, I would have to run a nonstop live show for a year. Like it's insane. But yeah, let me go back and let me share this story with you guys. So this was about actually it was a year prior to me breaking my back. And I was with my best friend at the time. His name's Maya Jeremiah, but we called him Maya, and he called me up and said, "Hey, a bunch of our friends are going to get together and go float down the river." And I was like, I don't know. That doesn't sound very safe. I don't know about that. And he goes, "Oh, come on. It'll be a lot of fun." And I was like, "No, that sounds like rough waters. And I'm just not into that." And he said, "No, no, no, no. It's super fun. It's like chill. And we just float on tubes." Well, anyway, long story short, he talks me into going to this river, and very first thing I said when we show up, "Where are the life jackets?" And of course, everyone's looking at each other like, "Don't tell her, we don't have any." And I looked at him and I was like, "Are you kidding me? No life jackets?" And I was like, "Oh my gosh, I'm out. I'm going home. I'm not doing that's not safe." And just I guess something must have been telling me all along, don't do it, because I kept saying over and over, "No, I'm out. No, I'm out. No, I'm out." But anyway, my stupid butt got in that boat. And so he ended up matching me. There's like probably about 12 of us. And there's like these little raft boats. Okay. And when I say little, I mean little, like two-man little raft boats. And they said, get in the one in the back. This guy's a pro. He does this all the time. If anything goes wrong, he's your guy. Okay. So I go, all right, fine. I get in this boat, and for whatever reason, they decide to stick the beer cooler in my boat in the middle. And I just sort of look at it like, yeah, that's probably not a good sign. I'm in the boat with the guy who probably drinks and I don't even know him, right? And so anyway, off we go. And in the beginning, it's like smooth, and this lasts for about 3 minutes. All of a sudden, I now you gotta know, I'm in this boat I'm looking, my back is to the water, okay? He's looking towards, and I'm looking at him. And so I'm sitting there, and all of a sudden I hear this noise behind me. Okay, well, I turn around and then I realize you got to be kidding me. So I'm seeing these like water rapids and they've lied to me. It's supposed to be calm and easy. No, bunch of liars. So all of a sudden, I hear the guy in the boat say to me, Hold on. Like, I mean, as fast as I could hear him speak, the front of the boat hits this huge rock sticking out of the water. The boat decides now it's like one of those blow up boats, okay? It slams into the rock and then the boat decides to bend in half. Like now it's a taco, okay? But before it bends in half like a taco, it throws me out. So off I go, off the cooler goes. I hit the back of my head on the rock, and the cooler lands on top of me, pushes me down. Okay. So I'm like underneath, but it ends up flipping me over. Okay. So now I'm on my belly, and the cooler has now pushed me down, but finally let go. But I'm so far under that I can't get up. It's just dragging me along the bottom of the river. And now I'm in like these rapids. So I guess it must have knocked me out. And so I remember just all of a sudden, like I guess I came to and I grabbed onto something and I thought it was a tree. Well, it wasn't a tree. It was actually one of the guys in the group way ahead of us. And by this time, the guy who I was in the boat with is now has notified everybody else, I'm gone, I'm missing. And they said they had been looking for me for about 2 or 3 minutes already by this time. So they're thinking, like, oh my God, she's gone. Like, she's drowned. We've lost her. They're freaking out. My best friend's crying. And and I'm like, I grab onto this, like I think is a tree, and I'm pulling myself up. Like, I mean, I kid you not, I feel like a monkey climbing this tree. And then I realize it's this guy, and I'm trying my best to pull myself up. And he grabs me and picks me up out of the water. And he's screaming, oh my God, I found her. And I had consumed, just swallowed mass amounts of water. And so as soon as I realize I'm finally out, I can't breathe properly. I'm massively throwing up water, and I'm freaking out. My friend sees me, comes running over, grabs me, and I'm like, "Get me out of here." And I'm sure I could barely talk. So he ends up pulling me off to the side, and we were at by this time where we were in the river, we had been right next to, like, I guess it was like an old wood mill or something, but this place had been shut down for a long, long time. And so this is a Sunday afternoon. Nobody's there, nobody's supposed to be there. This place is closed. So he pulls me up off out of the water, and it's like this grassy area, and then onto this like long dirt road where this wood mill's at. And he pulls me off to the side, and I'm laying on the ground now, and I'm just massively throwing up water. I feel like I've just consumed gallons and gallons of water. And I knew I wasn't going to make it. And so I remember telling him, like, he's like, I can't leave you here. And I said, leave me. I'm not going to make it. We're like 30 miles away from the closest hospital. And my car's like a mile up the road. And he says, "Oh my God." I said, "Go get the car. I just want you to know I don't think I'm gonna make it." And he's freaking out again. I can't leave you. I'm not leaving. And all of a sudden, literally out of nowhere, and we both look up, this gate. Now it's like this big, huge chained gate. This gate opens up, and this guy comes driving in this truck, okay? Drives all the way down the road, right where we are, stops, gets out of the car, the truck, comes around, picks me up, puts me in the truck. And my friend is just like, all of a sudden, it's like he's panicked, but at the same time, you can tell he's just wondering, like, where does this guy come from? Like, you know, how are you even here? Like, we don't understand. Like, this place has been closed down for years. Why would you show up here? And I remember him just looking at me and like is just very quiet and drives us up. And I remember him saying something at some point, or maybe I think I hear him talking to me, but he drives us up to where my car's at and gets me settled in. I had a Suburban back in the day. And so he gets me settled in there. My friend's driving. And I remember us driving all the way down into town. Now, listen, we had to stop off every couple of minutes. And I was just, like I said, throwing up mass amounts of water. It was like buckets of water. And we finally get to the hospital. And I'm still convinced, like, I'm dying. Something's not right with me. I'm I'm a goner. Okay. And so I'm in the hospital and I'm surrounded by, like, it seemed to me like a dozen doctors. And they're all standing there and they all just look confused and they don't know what's going on because they're saying your vitals are so low that we don't even understand how you're alive. And you've consumed so much water, you should be gone, like you should be dead. And they're literally telling me this. And I just remember, like, laying there, and it's almost like, how when you're under a pool and people are talking and it's like, "Woo," like all this weird, like, you it's such a weird feeling, but that's how I could hear them talking to me. And I just remember, like, looking at all of them, but yet I was like there, but not there. And my sister actually came in and she was there with me. And she was saying, now, I don't remember this at all. Okay. But she said, I was saying the strangest, weirdest things, like didn't make any sense. And the doctors were like, it's probably just because of the water. Her brain's not functioning properly, that she's just saying crazy things. But I apparently started talking about my uncle when I was there. And I remember her telling me later, like, why were you talking about him? And I'm like, I don't even remember talking to anybody. I just remember hearing the water voices. And anyway, they ended up keeping me there overnight. But it was such a weird situation because none of them could understand, like, how are you here? With how much water was in your lungs, and every single test we're running is like your blood pressure. Every single thing they said was so severely low that I should have just died. And they're like, we don't get it. We don't understand it. Like, this is crazy. And I didn't have brain damage. I didn't have, well, I mean, let's just say I didn't. But don't ask Lee if I do. But anyway, yeah. So yeah, once again, here I am. And I remember very specifically looking at that man and knowing, like, I knew exactly who he was. And he came there to save me again. Like, this is something that has been repetitive through my life. So, yeah, it was an amazing situation. But yeah, I know for a fact that we all have our guardian angels, and I know for a fact he's mine. I've known that since I was tiny. But yeah, they do show up when you need them. And he shows me himself like a normal looking human when he comes. So it's very interesting because I don't see him any other way. I never have. So, what about you? What do you think?
Well, so with this, the whole thing about the story that you told a couple of times now with, your uncle in the school, picking you up and then taking you to the house. That was your first, encounter with
Yeah.
him, not knowing who he was, and then finding out later through your parents. And then the incident where his school was closed
Yeah.
was the second time, right?
That was the second time. Yeah.
Yeah, and then this time would have been your third, right? So I'm
No. No, it's
no.
just the third one that I've talked about. Yeah, yeah. I've
Oh,
had multiple situations where he has shown up way more than I've talked about. So yeah. This isn't number 3, but one of many
okay.
times.
Does
Yeah,
he? I just wonder. Does he always look the same?
he does.
He
He
does.
always looks,
Okay.
to me, he does. Yeah.
And the conversations. I mean, with this experience that you're talking about now at the river, I mean, did you have any conversation with him at all about anything family related?
When I got out of the water,
Yeah,
you know, okay, so in the beginning when I first saw him, it seems like, and I know it sounds crazy, but I remember feeling like I knew instantly who he was. Even though
yeah,
I was very confused in my mind at the time of where did this man come from? But once I got in the truck and really looked at him, I realized who he was and that I was safe and that he was there to help me.
yeah,
But I must have had a conversation with him, but it's very weird because um I don't remember exactly like what I said to him, but apparently I told my sister later that I had a full-blown conversation with him and he had a conversation with me. But the weirdest thing was the guy that I was in the truck with, my friend, said I never spoke and he never spoke.
and that's kind of what I was getting at, and what I was kind of thinking in the back of my mind was maybe a lot of the times when this happens, the conversations that you have are all, in your mind with him, and then
Mhm.
also it seems like time for some reason isn't syncing up either when you're around him as well, uh, through some of the other stories that you've told me, and I
Mm.
wonder, you know, is there is he able to affect time, or is it because of the situation that time has stretched itself out when you're around him? You know, I'm just
You know, I
just
don't
trying to.
know. I don't really know about that. I've never really like sat and thought about like time changing, or maybe he manipulates time for me. And maybe that's why I lived.
Yeah.
Maybe he changed time for me to get from point A to point B so I could live.
Okay.
So
Okay.
I don't know. I mean, that's an interesting question for me because I really don't sit and think about time, but I will. Let me explain one thing. Okay, I'm going to go back a little bit to when I broke my back. I don't talk a lot about this with people unless I'm really close to you. And I am going to share this because I feel like this is a really good, an important part of like what I go through and what I deal with even now. Okay. So a lot of people don't know this, but when I actually was in that horrible accident when I broke my back, um, I actually ended up with partial amnesia. And so when I first started to realize like where I was in the hospital, there was a big, huge chunk of my life that I had no memory of. My family had to come in, the doctors would come in and ask me questions about years and people and TV and current events and major things that were going on in the world. And I had no clue what they were talking about. He would ask me a lot of things for some weird reason about the 90s. And I think it was because back then it was only 2005. So the 90s were should have been a big, huge chunk of my, growing up memory, whatever. And it was not for me. In fact, I have very little memory of the 90s at all. And I'm actually missing a big chunk, which is very weird for me because like I'll remember little things that happened or certain things, but like even simple things like Lee, for instance, will say, "Oh, you remember that TV show when we were kids?" And oh my God, it was so popular. Or somebody else will jump in and go, "Oh yeah, that was an awesome show." And I'll be like, I have no idea what you're talking about. So,
Yeah.
and I do that to him a lot. So that's a hard one for me because you feel like there's a big chunk of you missing that you wonder like, did I go through something then that I wish I remembered? Or Did I go through something traumatic that I'm glad I don't remember? You know what I mean? I don't know. So, but that is a hard one for me because that was let's see, my youngest of the oldest was born in 1996. So, so yeah, I have lost big chunks of my kids growing up. So that was hard
That's
for me. Now the weird thing is, I remember the '80s vividly, very, which I love. I loved living in the '80s, and I'm so glad I remember the '80s. But for some strange reason, you asked me questions about the '90s, and I probably won't know what you're talking about.
uh,
So
MC Hammer Pants. Do you remember MC Hammer Pants?
I do remember MC Hammer Pants, and I think it's because I've seen pictures.
The world is right then. The world is right then. If you remember
Yeah,
that, we're good.
yeah. But you know what? One thing a lot of people will say they'll remind me of, or they'll think I remember are either music or TV shows, and that's something that I have a very hard time with. Um, Family stories from like which is very weird because also from when I was young, I have like these little chunks of time, which is weird because I'll remember other things during those times, but other things my parents, well, my dad passed now, but my parents used to say, "Well, remember this? And we went on this trip, and we had this great time, and this is where we went, and we had so much fun, and you did this," and I'll just look at them like, "No, I don't remember that at all." And so it's hard for them because it's like I guess kind of like a piece of that is gone for them. You know what I mean? Or it's gone for me, so it's gone for them as well because they'll think like, "Oh, wow, that's a hard one because she doesn't have memories of like doing things with us." And like, like I said, my older kids, and so it's hard for them too. It was a really hard one for them. So, yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's
Yeah.
those are quite the stories, and I think about there have been times in my life where I've been skiing or snowboarding or doing something, climbing a rock wall. I remember this specific time, but there have been times when I've just been doing something, and all of a sudden I get a flash of like what could have happened to me in a split
Mhm.
second. Like, and I don't know if anybody else has ever experienced that before. So one time I was skiing up at Stevens Pass and I was going really fast down the ski run. And all of a sudden it was like I saw myself tumble in my mind. I saw it happen. Like I vividly watched this happen and I would have broke my neck and probably a
Wow.
lot of other bones, but it was such an instantaneous thing. And I was like, I stopped right there on the hill and I was like, whoa, wait a minute. What the heck just happened? Because I just witnessed this. And I wonder if those aren't little hints, that somebody directs towards us and says, hey,
Mm,
stop what you're doing right now and take a minute because you're, you could just be gone. You know what I mean?
mhm.
So I wonder if anybody else has had those flashes like that of seeing something happen in your mind, but not actually happen.
Are you talking kind of like a deja vu kind of thing?
Yeah, but it's so realistic. Like you actually are watching it happen from, but it's you that is going through the motions, right, in your mind. And you're watching
Mm,
it play out like it's a movie script, right?
like an
But all of a sudden,
like an out of body kind of experience, kind of? Is that what you mean?
I guess so. It was just a split second flash for me, but it was like I watched my body tumble, you know, and
Weird.
yeah. So I was wondering if anybody else has ever dealt with that before. Have
I don't
you?
think I've ever dealt with that.
That's just yeah, it was crazy. I've asked some people at the time, people I was with, and they're
Yeah.
like, don't know what you're talking about.
You know what?
Okay.
Speaking of that, um, you asked me earlier about the time being
Yep.
manipulated or something. To be honest with you, I never really thought about manipulated time until we had that experience in the tent with the light and it
Yeah.
being like late and then super early in the morning. So
Yep.
manipulated time has never been on my mind, really, honestly, until you and I were talking about like the difference in 5 hours. But that has kind of stuck in my mind about like, wow, that's probably the first time that outside of like, to me, a deja vu kind of reminds me of like, whoa, like, hang on a minute. I've been here. You've said that. We were doing this exact thing, you know? And I know
Yeah.
everybody who says, oh, deja vus are so weird. And I'm like, yeah, it does make you wonder if we have this um altered universe of, are we in two places at once and then somehow our memory is like having that flash of it happening, and then what are we on Groundhog's Day? Are we redoing it? What's happening?
Yeah. I wonder too. Like, so they say, I've heard this before. They say that, there's no such thing as time. Well, I don't understand that necessarily. I can't grasp that, but I've heard people say
I
that
think he's
there's, and
frozen.
scientists have
Oh,
said,
there he is.
yeah, that there's no such thing as time. I'm like, what? That doesn't make any sense to me. How can there not
Hang
be
on.
time? But,
You keep freezing up. So
oh, I do not know why.
just like,
But anyway,
okay.
so another thought with that is that, there's this vast, you know everything that
No.
has already happened, or everything that has happened has
Mhm.
already happened once. You know what I mean? So maybe there's this akashic record that we pull
To
from.
like tell you
you
you're
know
frozen. You keep coming back. You keep freezing and coming back.
well, I'm not going to talk then for the rest of the night. I'm not talking for the rest of the night. You can continue.
Um, you
Yeah,
freeze back and freeze and come back. So I don't know what's happening right now.
I couldn't tell you. I don't know.
I
Anyway,
hear
so it
understand
seems
what
like
you're saying.
I'm having some technical difficulties over here for some odd reason.
Let's move on because you're having technical wind it up tonight. I just want to say I really appreciate everyone who comes and joins us and watches our show. Thank you guys for being so patient with us over the last back, get to our regular programming.
Yeah, absolutely, guys. Thank you very much for
Butts
coming.
off. Uh, Dave and Rob and Terry and Lee and myself and Kat and Jessica. I mean, everyone, we're all doing something to make Spaced Out Radio even more amazing than usual. And we all look forward to getting back to our normal Spaced Out Radio hours. I believe Monday night. Are we coming back?
Yes,
I believe
that's correct. They will
Monday
be
night.
back on Monday. Mhm.
Yeah. And of course, you'll see me with Dave every Tuesday night. And no, I just changed it. With Rob. I normally do Sundays. I am now going to come back on Saturdays and do the cryptid report for both of them. And but in the meantime, we are just very happy that you guys have been, holding on and hanging out with us, and you've all been so patient and so wonderful, and we appreciate you guys coming on and watching and enjoying our show. Thank you so much. We really do appreciate you all. So thank
Yeah,
you.
don't forget to like and subscribe too on YouTube. It helps us a lot.
Absolutely. We're
Definitely
trying to
want to.
grow, grow, grow.
And give us a thumbs up because that helps the algorithm. Gosh,
The
algorithm.
algorithm.
Yeah, that's correct.
Yeah.
So do
Well,
that.
yeah. And also before we take off, for any of you guys that are watching that aren't already following us, you can find Lee and I both on Facebook, Element 115, as well as Jackie Harmon. That's JACQUE, Harmon, HARMON. And I always get this wrong.
Yeah, it's that way, right? Like
It's backwards. And Lee
yeah,
Strauss.
and yeah, that's Lee Strauss.
Yes. And of course, you can watch us and find us on Spaced Out Radio's YouTube channel. Guys, my allergies are kicking my butt tonight.
Yeah.
So yeah, thank you again, you guys, for coming on. We hope you enjoyed the show tonight. We really appreciate you, and we very much look forward to getting back.
Yes, and next weekend we're going to have a 3-hour show. By the way,
That's right. Next week you
hmm
have us for 3 hours. And
3.
Lee's gonna sing and dance for you guys in his extra
That's
small shirt.
yeah. I'll have to get one out. This is actually a large, so I'll have to get one of the extra small ones. And by the way, on Spaced Out Radio, uh, uh, spacedoutradio.com, we've got a plethora of gear to buy, and there is now an XS extra
Yeah.
small. Well, it says XS. This is Dave's invention, so don't blame me. Yeah.
Yeah, we
Anyway.
actually have amazing new swag for you guys. No
Mhm.
ugly swag, as Dave says, no ugly swag.
It's
So
all great.
please go like, subscribe, heart,
Mhm.
love, join. Come back Monday. Dave will be back. He's super excited to get back to normal. I know we all are. I know you
Right.
guys are. So thank you very much for joining us. And we hope you guys have a great night. And we'll see you next Friday.
All right.